last few weeks. We have had rebellions against from inside. That is, insiders of the nation have been rebellious. We've had Miriam in chapter 12. We've had different individuals, leaders in the rebellion of Korah. All of these have been internal rebellions, and now we're going to look at an external rebellion. Go with me to Numbers chapter 22. Numbers chapter 22. We're going to see a lot of tie-ins with Abraham today. So notice in your notes I say this: Balak, the king of Moab, seeks to hire Balaam to curse Israel in order to gain the upper hand militaristically. The way of Balak speaks of Israel's threat reminds one of how Pharaoh spoke of Israel in Exodus 1:8-9. So go with me to Numbers 22. Look at Numbers 22. It says this: Then the people of Israel set out and camped in the plains of Moab, beyond the Jordan of Jericho. And Balaam, the son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites, and Moab was in great dread of the people, because there were many. Moab was overcome with fear of the people of Israel. God had said he would do this. God had promised that he would put the fear of Israel onto these other nations, being faithful to his promise. And Moab said to the elders of Midian, This horde will now lick up all that is around us as the ox licks up the grass of the field. So Balak, the son of Zippor, who was king of Moab at that time, sent messengers to Balaam, the son of Beor, at Pethor, which is near the river in the land of the people of the Ammah, to call him, saying, Behold, a people has come out of Egypt. They cover the face of the earth, and they are dwelling opposite me. Come now, curse this people for me, since they are also mighty for me. They are too mighty for me. Perhaps I shall be able to defeat them and drive them from the land. For I know that he whom you bless is blessed, and he whom you curse is cursed. So notice what happens here. This king of Moab is concerned. Now here's the thing. If you go to Deuteronomy 2:9, we won't have to turn there now, but Deuteronomy 2:9, Yahweh tells the nation of Israel, do not mess with the Moabites. Leave the Moabites alone. Do not try to take their land. Leave them in their land and let them be. Do not try to mess with them in any way. Okay? We have the Abrahamic covenant. Abrahamic covenant is in chapter 12, 1-3. Then chapter 15, the walking between the parts. And then chapter 17, the sign of the covenant and circumcision. And in chapter 12, he says this: Those who bless you will be blessed, and those who curse you will be cursed. Okay? So Balak, the king of Moab, wants to hire Balaam to come and curse Israel, to in effect undo, if you will, the Abrahamic covenant. Now look what happens. Reading in verse 7. So the elders of Moab and the children of Midian departed, and the elders of Midian departed with the fee for divination in their hand. And they came to Balaam and gave him Balak's message. And he said to them, Lodge here tonight, and I will bring back word to you as the Lord speaks to me. So the princes of Moab stayed with Balaam, and God came to Balaam and said, Who are these men with you? And Balaam said to God, Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab, has sent to me, saying, Behold, a people has come out of Egypt, and it covers the face of the earth. Now come, curse them for me. Perhaps I shall be able to fight against them and drive them out. Now listen to this. Now look at this. Watch this verse. God said to Balaam, You shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed. That seems pretty clear, right? Okay? Don't curse them. Don't go with them. All right. Look what happens. So Balaam arose in the morning and said to the princes of Balak, Go to your own land, for the Lord has refused to let me go with you. So the princes of Moab rose and went to Balak and said, Balaam refuses to come with us. Once again Balak sent princes more in number and more honorable than these. And they came to Balaam and said to him, Thus says Balak the son of Zippor, Let nothing hinder you from coming to me, for I will surely do you great honor, and whatever you say to me I will do. Come, curse this people for me. But Balaam answered and said to the servants of Balak, Though Balak were to, now look what he says, Though Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold. I could not go beyond the command of the Lord my God to do less or more. So you two, please stay here tonight, that I may know what more the Lord will say to me.
Why would you say him the second time?
Right. Hath the Lord already spoken? Do not go with them. Do not curse the nation of Israel. Right? But Balaam, let me suggest to you, is seeing dollar signs. He's seeing a big payday. And he's thinking, maybe the Lord will change his mind.
I could give him a portion of it.
Yeah, we can make a donation to the whatever. But he's got, because listen to what he says. Even if he were to give me his house full of gold and silver. What's he thinking?
That'll give him the house.
Okay, look what happens. So then it says, verse 20, and God came to Balaam that night and said to him, if the men have come to call you, rise, go with them. But only do what I tell you. Now why does God, I asked a question here, why does God reverse what he said earlier?
I think it's a setup. I think we are misreading Balaam's intent a little bit. I'm not completely. And I think, and this is just possible, I'm reaching out there a little bit, that maybe he's sensing God's going to do something. Because he said, I will only speak. He declares, I will only speak what God tells me to speak. I am a servant of God. Okay. And then this proceeds, okay, now God has released me to go, so I'll go. But I'm only going to say what God tells me to say. And he warns him.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
What follows afterwards is he speaks what God, he's going to speak what God has spoken to speak. So since he came back, could it be that his heart, like he saw dollar signs, so God said, okay, let's do this. But you can only say what I want you to say and only do, and I've got a message for the king.
Okay. All right.
No, you think he's just setting them up? He's just setting them up to put a curse.
Setting him up to put a curse.
To put a curse on the people of Moab.
Yeah. Because before Moab's protected, he said, leave them alone.
Right.
And God's saying, okay, now they're going to judge themselves.
Okay.
And that's why I'm saying this is a setup of, okay, they've had their chance.
All right.
And I fulfilled, because they were good, I repay them.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're going to step on their toes.
All right. Here's another possibility, just a thought.
Okay.
Another thought, and these are all good thoughts, because I'm not being definitive here, is that maybe sometimes God is like a parent in this regard. You tell your children no,
But you know they're going to do it.
but you know they're going to do it anyway. You know they're going to do it anyway. You say no to them. I don't want you to do it. And in the end, you go, yeah, they're going to do it anyway. And in the back of your mind as a parent, you're thinking, they're going to do it anyway. They really want to do it. They come to you and they say, can I do this? And you go, absolutely not. No way. Do not do that. Knowing in the back of your head that they're hearing this and going, yeah, okay.
Let's see how that works out.
I'll figure out a way. So, you know what they really want to do. Now what you do is, they come to you again and say, can I do it? And you go, okay. In other words, if that's what you really want to do, go and do it. That's what you really want to do. Knowing, though, that you put some hedges about it, you say, but you can only say what I tell you to say. Okay? There's still some stipulations here. I'm going to let you go. Yeah.
I mean, for me, if I were in Balaam's position, and I was known as somebody who hears from the Lord, if somebody's going to come take the time and they're going to come and ask me, go ask the Lord this, then regardless of how many times they come and ask that, I would make the effort to go to God and say, okay, what do you say? Because it's not my position to say, well, God already said no, so the answer is no. It's my position to be the go-between and be the relay and say, okay, they've come and asked, so what do you have to say?
Okay. Yeah.
Do we know exactly what God said to Balaam initially? Because I believe all we're hearing is what Balaam says that God told him already. And maybe he slightly misunderstood God that, because God says go ahead and go with him.
Yeah.
But maybe he misunderstood before and thought that God said, don't do anything at all, period. And God just said, no, you can't.
Well, first he says 12, and again it's being reported by the narrator's reporting it, but he says, God said to Balaam, you shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people for their blessed. So you didn't supposed to go with them. So the narrator's telling us this. Now, I want to get to this. Go ahead.
Well, as a teacher, a lot of times in the classroom, kids are like, I do this, and people don't. And they keep bugging you. And so I agree with what you're saying, that God was going to use the situation to teach Balaam something, but to also use the advantage of a consequence for the people of the other Moab.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's going to come to that. By the way, let's just say this. We live in an era where, and I think we should be extremely cautious, I've said this before, where you have people who want to give a word from the Lord or a message from the Lord, and in the process of doing this are amassing huge fortunes in doing so. I think you should look at anybody that is a teacher or a ministry, whatever. I'm just cautioning us all to be judicious and to think about who we support with in regards to ministry. Just a thought that look at what they're doing, look at who they're helping, look at what's going on with their ministry. And if that ministry, if every dollar you give to that ministry is going directly into the pocket of that person, be cautious. Think about that before you do it. If they're not really using the money for what they say that they are, then one should be judicious and wise. Enough said on that. All right, now look at verse 12. I want to get to this. Yes.
Maybe I think twice about this guy. How many people don't talk to their donkey?
Yeah, he does talk to his donkey. We're going to get to that. Yeah, the donkey talks to him, actually.
Oh, I suppose he listens to a donkey. That's what.
Yeah. Hey, if your donkey starts talking to you, all right. Now look what he says here. Look at verse 12, though. Here's verse 21. So Balaam rose in the morning and saddled his donkey and went with the princess of Moab. But God's anger was kindled because he went. He told him to go, but now he's angry with him. This goes back to what I was saying earlier. Why would God be angry with him? Why would God say to him, so let's look at the order. I don't want you to go with them, and I don't want you to curse the nation of Israel. God, can I really go? Can I really go? It'd be nice if I could go. All right, fine, you can go, but only say what I have to say. Then he sets out, it says, the anger of the Lord was kindled against him.
Because he already told them that what he wanted to do the first.
Now, but look what happens here. Now listen to this. Those of you that have heard the earlier text, it says this. So he rose in the morning, saddled his donkey, and went with the princess of Moab. But God's anger was kindled because he went. The angel of the Lord took his stand in the way as a Satan.
Yep.
Now he was riding on the donkey, and his two servants were with him. Just put all that together, and what does that remind you of? What other text does that remind you of? Huh? Yes, specifically. Abraham and Isaac. Yes, absolutely. Abraham. Abraham rises early, saddles his donkey, servants go with him, and he meets the angel of the Lord. Okay? Now, this is from a tractate in the Mishnah known as Pirkei Avot. I'm not advocating it as a means of something to do, but listen to what it says about Abraham. It compares Abraham and Balaam. This is Pirkei Avot, tractate in the Mishnah. Very interesting. Whoever has the following three traits is among the disciples of our forefather Abraham. And whoever has three different traits is among the disciples of the evil Balaam. Those who have a good eye, a humble spirit, and a meek soul are the disciples of our forefather Abraham. Those who have an evil eye, an arrogant spirit, and a greedy soul are the disciples of the wicked Balaam. How are the disciples of our forefather Abraham different from the disciples of the wicked Balaam? The disciples of our forefather Abraham enjoyed the fruits of their good deeds in this world and inherit the world to come. As it is said, and it quotes Proverbs 8, but the disciples of the evil Balaam inherit Gehinnom and descend into the well of destruction. As it says, and it quotes Psalm 55:24, and you, O God, shall lower them into the well of destruction. Men of bloodshed and deceit shall not live out half their days, but as for me, I will trust in you. And it goes on. So my point is that even within the rabbinic tradition, they started to see, as you're reading Numbers, that Abraham is one to be brought into this picture because you hear similarities. All right, now look what happens. Verse 23. And the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword in his hand. And I've made the point that this drawn sword is used in Joshua chapter 5 of the captain of the army of God. He's the captain of the army in Joshua 5:13 and following. So this is not just any ordinary man. This is, in my estimation, this angel of Yahweh, this man with a drawn sword, Joshua 5, and here we have in Numbers, this angel of Yahweh is Yeshua. This is him before, and I'm going to show you how some of this works out. Look what happens. And the donkey turned aside on the road and went into the field, and Balaam struck the donkey and turned her into the road. Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path between the vineyards with a wall on either side. And when the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she pushed against the wall and pressed Balaam's foot against the wall. So he struck her again. Then the angel of the Lord went ahead and stood in a narrow place where there was no way to turn either to the right or the left. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she lay down under Balaam. And Balaam's anger was kindled, and he struck the donkey with his staff. Then the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey and said to Balaam, what have I done to you that you have struck me these 3 times? Now he doesn't stop and go, wow, my donkey's talking to me. My donkey's talking to me. That's a little odd. Here's what he says. He's so angry, look what he says. Because you have made a fool of me. I wish I had a sword in my hand, for then I would kill you. How ironic that there's an angel with a sword right in front of him.
How ironic. You made a fool of me. I'm talking to a donkey, and I'm not making a fool of myself.
Yeah, is that the fact that you're listen, if you ever start talking to an animal and they start talking back, you're losing it.
That's
you're losing
cause
it.
for concern.
Maybe not. Look what happens. And the donkey said to Balaam, am I not your donkey of which you have ridden all your life long to this day? Is it my habit to treat you this way? And he said, no. You know, look, we've ridden around for a long time together. Did I ever act like this? No. Then the Lord, now look at this. So the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey. Now he's going to open the eyes of Balaam. God can be, as we have said, he can be stealth. He can be hidden. Then he opened the eyes of Balaam, the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way, with his drawn sword in his hand. And he bowed down and fell on his face, and the angel of the Lord said to him, now look at this. Why have you struck your donkey 3 times? Behold, I have come out to oppose you because your way is perverse. Something in Balaam is not right. He says, the donkey saw me and turned aside before me these 3 times. If she had not turned aside from me, surely just now I would have killed you and let her live. You better be thankful for that donkey, pal, because had this, the angel of the Lord, now think about this. The wrath of the Lord was kindled against him, and the angel of the Lord was going to destroy him. Something is not right in Balaam. You can speak the words of the Lord and still not be right with the Lord. Just because the words of your mouth are from the Lord doesn't mean one's heart is with the Lord. Many will come to me in that day and say, Lord, Lord, did I not do this, do that, say this, and say that? I says, I never knew you. Where was your allegiance? This goes back to something we talked about a couple weeks back. Just because you say a prayer, just because you say, I believe, just because you fill out a card or walk down an aisle or say a mantra. The question becomes this: where is your allegiance? If you will not bend the knee and demonstrate your allegiance by how you live your life, what you do with your life, then do you truly believe? Belief is not demonstrated by what you say. Belief is demonstrated by what you do. The Lord is angry with him, and the angel of the Lord was going to destroy him. Why? Because Balaam has dollar signs. For him, it's about a big payoff. We know this from the apostolic texts that weigh in on this. The apostolic text, go with me to Jude. Look at Jude 1:11. Apostolic writers weigh in on this individual heavily. Right before the book of the Revelation, you have this little short book called Jude. Look at verse 11. So he says this, verse 11, "Woe to them, for they have gone the way of Cain, and have run greedily in the error of Balaam for profit, and perished in the rebellion of Korah." So he's got the book of Numbers in mind here and in Genesis. But the error of Balaam, who wanted to prophesy for personal gain, for monetary gain. You can see the other apostolic text that I've listed there for you. Now, here's the key. Remember what we said in the Hebrew Scriptures, that when we come to poetry, poetry gives us a messianic promise. Okay? Messianic promises are always embedded in the poetry. What is the poetry of Genesis? The poetry of Genesis is Genesis 49. That's where you get the poetry. And there's a messianic prophecy there. A scepter will come out of Judah. It's Genesis 49. We get to Exodus. Where's the poetry? Chapter 15, the Song of the Sea. And in that Song of the Sea, there is messianic prophecy. And oh, by the way, these messianic prophecies start talking about the latter days. They start talking about the eschatological future. Go with me to Genesis 49. Look at Genesis 49. The beginning, the end is in the beginning. The very end is in the beginning. Look at Genesis 49 and look at verse 1. It says this, "And Yaakov," Jacob, "called his sons and said, Gather together that I might tell you what shall befall you in the Acharit Yamim," the end of days. He's seeing down the corridors of time. And look at what he says about Judah. He says this in verse, I want to go to 9, verse 10. We can go to verse 10. "The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet." Okay, so there's a scepter that's going to arise out of Judah. That's going to come into play in our Numbers text here in just a moment. So in the poetry, we have messianic prophecies. Watch for them. Now look what happens in chapter 23. We have this oracle. He starts giving oracles, Balaam does, and I want to point out a couple of things to you. So go with me to chapter 23, verse 22. Chapter 23, verse 22. 22. Numbers 23, 22. Watch this. Numbers chapter 23, verse 22. It says, "God brings them out of Egypt, and is for them like the horns of the wild ox." Okay, so God brings them out of Egypt. Okay, who's the them? It's the nation of Israel, right? The nation of Israel. If you go over to 24, verse 8, 24, verse 8, it says, "God brings him out of Egypt, and is for him like the horns of the wild ox. All right, now think about this. Watch how the trajectory of scriptures, watch how it goes. Go with me to Matthew chapter 2. Matthew chapter 2. Thank you. Thank you very much. So nice. In case I need to write something down. Matthew chapter 2, and look at verse 15. Look at verse 15. We'll go back to verse 14. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed for Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the Lord through the prophet, saying, out of Egypt I called my son. Now, he's quoting there Hosea 11:1. Hosea 11:1 says, out of Egypt I have called my son. So Matthew is looking back to Hosea 11:1, and Hosea 11:1 is looking back to Numbers chapter 22 and 23. I brought them out of Egypt, and when I brought them out of Egypt, I brought him out of Egypt. Out of Egypt, I brought my son. What son? Them and him. In them was a him. This scepter that's going to come out of Judah. How do I know that? How do I know that that's what Balaam is tracking here? Because look at verse 17. Going back to Numbers 24. Look at verse 17. I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star shall come out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel. So, why a star? Because a star speaks of the heavenly realm. I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. It's in the distant future. There's a scepter that's coming. He's going to be a descendant on the human level with Judah. And he is going to be, he's going to come from the heavenly realm. He's a star. We knew he was a scepter coming from Judah from Genesis 49, verse 10. And now, Balaam is tracking along with this. Actually, God is tracking along through Balaam and saying, out of Egypt, I'm going to bring them. And when I bring them out, I'm going to bring him out. It's a messianic prophecy. All right. Questions or comments? Yes, go ahead.
I'm just looking back at 22 and verse 23. So we are checking against that's exactly what Balaam was trying to do. But like, you know, somehow, you know, I don't say the champion against him was right, I'm trying to speak words against him that he failed to the fall.
Okay.
Sounds like witchcraft.
All right. So, trying to track with that. We'll talk. You and I'll talk. Yeah.
And, you know, I don't mind all the words.
I know. That's okay. We'll track. We'll track. I'm trying to work with you. So it's you see what I'm saying here? You have Matthew in chapter 2 with the birth of this child saying, out of Egypt, I brought my son. That's him. It's him. On this level, it's Jacob and Judah and David. Because David is the scepter. David is the scepter. This is why Matthew is going out of his way to say, David, David, David. Okay? Because it's the king. And so, Hosea is looking at this. You have Matthew looking back at Hosea. Hosea is looking back to Numbers. And Numbers is saying, we're going back to Genesis 49. We're tracking all this. This poetry is all the way through. There's a son coming. Not now, but he's coming. This is the one. Did you notice how the angel of the Lord, go back for a moment, I wrote this in your notes, those of you that have them in front of you. Notice in 22:35, let's go to 22:35, the angel of the Lord overrides or says the same thing as the angel of the Lord. Look at 22:35. It says, and the angel of the Lord said to Balaam, go with the men, but speak only the word that I tell you. It's very similar language to what we had Yahweh saying to him in verse 20. Very similar language. They both are speaking the same. And if you go back to think about Abraham, Abraham encounters the angel of the Lord in the Akedah in Genesis 22. And there the angel of the Lord actually tells him not to do what Yahweh has told him to do. And overrides. Abraham, stop. Okay. So this angel of the Lord, as we have studied him out, we're seeing long before we had Yeshua on the ground in the form that we had it in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, we're seeing him as the angel of the Lord in the Hebrew Scripture. This is Yeshua on the ground, working with his people and making sure that he protects his people, that the promise is secure. Here's the promise. Those who bless you will be blessed. Those who curse you will be cursed. There's a blessing that will come to those who bless his people. Why? Because God is going to bless them. Why is God going to bless them? Why is God going to bless them? Not everybody at once.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're distracted by
What was
the
the
rest.
question?
I gotta take it.
You, come here. Hey.
Ezra, stop.
Who wins?
Are you referring to when
What is the question?
The question was, start over. Why does God say, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you? What's the rationale behind all that's going on here? What's the big picture?
Yeah, the covenant with Abraham.
Covenant with Abraham, but what's even the bigger picture? Say again? Bringing in the nations, absolutely. And you, all the nations of the earth, will be blessed.
Through you.
Through you, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. And here's the overarching picture, is that there is a kingdom that is coming. And if you're going to have a coming kingdom, you have to have a coming king. This is why he says a scepter. A scepter is another way of saying a king. And we know that this king is going to come from the heavenly realm. Although, ironically, he's going to come through Judah. So how is this star from above, going to come through and be a part of Judah? This is the mystery of who God is. That somehow God is going to enflesh himself and be in them. That the promised seed will come through Judah, and there will be a scepter and a star who will rule and reign the world, over the world, to draw in the nations, so that everyone will submit and surrender to him, to do his will, to this world, for this world to be everything that it was designed to be, but wasn't because of man's rebellion. That every knee will bow and every tongue will confess. that God is who he said he was, and that he is the king. That he is, and by the way, that's the good news. The good news of the gospel. Go with me to Isaiah 52. Go with me to Isaiah 52. We'll end with this. If I were to ask you, what is the good news? If you were to say to somebody in the first century, hey, we've got good news. Evangelion, gospel. Go to Isaiah 52. Isaiah 52. And look at, we'll read down. He says, I'll just read verse 7. Look at verse 7. Here it is. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him who brings good news, who publishes peace, who brings good news of happiness, who publishes salvation or deliverance, who says to Zion, your God reigns.
Amen.
Your God reigns. Now here's the key. Here's the key. I want to I'll come to your question in a second. Go ahead.
Maybe that's wrong because that song says our God reigns.
Yeah, our God reigns. It's really your God reigns. Yeah, it is your God reigns. Now here's the thing. Yeah, good point. I want to make this point. This is key to what we're seeing. And this goes back to the whole kingship concept. Everybody else wants to be king. Everybody else wants to be king. But there can only be one king. There can only be one king. And I want to give us a word of comfort in this regard. It seems, and I've said this over the past, it seems that every time we turn on the news, or every time you look at a paper or listen to the radio, that there's some crazy person who wants to do evil. And who, we got Kim Jong-un, we've got, al-Bashir Assad in Syria. We've got all these people who want to do evil.
And they want to be in control.
And they want to be in control. You've got North Korea wants to be able to say, we can do anything to anybody that we want. We want power. So you have all these world leaders who want power. And the comfort I bring, so to speak, is to say, hey, look, you know what? No matter what happens there or here in all these places, at the end of the day, our God, your God, reigns. He will be king, and he will vanquish all the others who are rivals, who think that they're rivals. They will be nothing. They will be absolutely nothing. They think, well, I've got nuclear capabilities. God says that's nothing. I rained down sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah a long time ago. I can open up the ground and just swallow people.
Done it, been there.
I can send all kinds of. I can put this whole world into turmoil. I brought 10 plagues against Egypt. Nothing. I opened the water, and the children of Israel walked through, and then I destroyed their enemies. They got nothing on me. And oh, by the way, the angel of the Lord, in one night, kills 185,000 Assyrians. Just 185,000. He's like, I'm stealth, you can't even see me. The Psalms say he has tens of thousands of chariots. I've got an innumerable army that is stealth, that can bring fire, that have swords, and you can't see us. And you think I'm worried about these little leaders who want to be ruler of the world? Are you kidding me? I'm king, he says. I'm saying this because It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. We're going to see more and more leaders arise who have this thirst for power. And they want to rule the world. They want to have the world come to them. They want people to fear them. We see the rise of terrorist groups. They have been on the rise. And God says, I reign. I rule and reign. We must not put, and here's the key, we must not put our trust or our faith in our own power. We must put our faith and trust in God and God alone.
Amen.
The weapons of our warfare are not carnal. We're not going to defeat with swords and with spears, or with planes, or with bombs. We only defeat evil. Evil is only defeated when we rely upon our God. And when we place our faith and trust in Him. Evil will not be defeated by more and more threats and more power. Evil is defeated when we pray to our God, when we rely upon our God, and when we ask Him to defend us. And He will defend His people. And even if, what can they take from me? What can they take from me but my body?
That's it.
That's it. The most that anybody can ever take from me is my body. That's the most that they can do.
It's dust anyway.
But my hope is in Messiah Yeshua. That because He was able to come and conquer death, and because He was able to resurrect, that because I am in Him, I am positionally in Him, that He on that day will give me immortality and will resurrect me to live with Him forever. That's the hope. That's the hope. If not, we all die, we all go on the ground, that's it. But if we believe, we place our faith in Him and we give our allegiance to Him because we believe that He will be King, He is King, and He will be King. This is the message of the Messianic faith. 1 and 2, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that's why fear is a really bad thing, because these little people who are trying to get power, Kim Jong, whatever his name is, and the other people, they live by fear, they live by insecurities, and therefore, because they go to their own devices, they've created a situation where they're just, evil is just being fed by more and more evil. So we being of God, we don't fear, we trust in Him, so therefore we're not going to make those poor decisions.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
Like the psalmist, Psalms 118:8, it is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in humans.
Yeah, it's better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in humanity. Humanity will always fail you. At the very end of the day, humanity will fail you. It has its limitations. If I serve a God who has no limitations and who is in control of this universe, even if it looks like it's out of control down here, God says, I can bring it into equilibrium just like that, without a problem. Not a problem. It's by the way, it says, it was a cosmic sneeze. God, by the blast of His nostrils, He parted the sea so that Israel could cross through. He says, I sneezed. That was just a sneeze. And the waters parted. It was nothing. I could walk in those same waters. I could open the ground. I could part the waters. I can bring stuff from the heavens. And how are you going to ever defeat me when you can't see me? Go back to Genesis 19. What do the two angels do to the men of Sodom and Gomorrah? They strike them with blindness. How are you going to fight something you can't even see? And what does the prophet say in 2 Kings to his servant? His servant says, we're outnumbered. We're going to be defeated. And he says, no, you don't know.
Lord, open His eyes.
Lord, open his eyes. And on the mountains all around Israel were chariots of fire that were innumerable. You can't even count them. And he says, they're in these chariots, they're mobile, they're mechanized, they're weaponized,
And they're ready.
and they have fire coming off of them. Nobody will be able to defeat this army. This is the army of God. This is why he is Adonai Sivaot. He is Lord of armies. And everything will be okay. Here's the key, in the Acharith Yamim. In the here and now, things are going to be hectic and nonsensical and goofy and crazy, and it's going to be all over the map. But in the Acharith Yamim, in the end of days, God arises and God sets all things right. And that's why you have Genesis 49 talking about the Acharith Yamim. It mentions it also here in our Numbers text. I mentioned it for you in, where did I put it at? Yes, Numbers 24:14. Look at Numbers 24:14. Look what he says. He says, and now behold, I am going to my people. Come, I will let you know what this people will do to your people in the latter days. In the end, the Acharith Yamim, the end of days. If you want to see it in the prophets, you can see it in Hosea chapter 3, verse 5. Look at Hosea. The prophets got in on this language as well. Where do you find Hosea?
That's Brent. Can we turn the AC off?
What?
Can we kill the AC?
No.
Please.
I just kind of.
I don't know if he knows how.
Yes, it's the second one. Look at Hosea chapter 3. It says, afterwards, 3:5, afterward the children of Israel shall return and seek the Lord their God. Now look at this. Listen to this. And David their king. David's been dead a long time. And they shall come in fear to the Lord and to his goodness in the latter days. The Acharith Yamim. All right. Yeah.